Starmer told us he was going to smash the gangs. Remember that? I thought, well, that had about as much chance as working as hearing every year we're launching a war on the drugs gangs. Well, that hasn't worked very well, and this was never going to work very, very well. In only his second speech in the Commons as Prime Minister, he made it very, very clear how wedded he was to the European Convention on Human Rights, their associated court in Strasbourg, and the incorporation of all of that into the 1998 Human Rights Act. And as far as we're concerned, unless we deport all of those that come illegally, they will continue to come. What happened after Southport was the most appalling cover-up. If we'd known the identity and something about the murderer, I don't believe those riots would have happened on anything like the scale that they did. Starmer told us he was going to smash the gangs. Remember that? I thought, well, that had about as much chance as working as hearing every year we're launching a war on the drugs gangs. Well, that hasn't worked very well, and this was never going to work very, very well. And channel crossings so far this year are over 40% higher than they were last year, and that's before we get the warm weather, and it's before the temperatures in the channel increase. So we're on for a record year. No sign of anyone crossing the channel being deported. Yes, the Labour Party have got rid of some overstayers, that is true, but nobody that comes is going to be deported because, and the Prime Minister made it very clear in only his second speech in the Commons as Prime Minister, he made it very, very clear how wedded he was to the European Convention on Human Rights, their associated court in Strasbourg, and the incorporation of all of that into the 1998 Human Rights Act. And as far as we're concerned, this is about sovereignty, just as the Brexit vote was about sovereignty, and we will leave the ECHR if we're in government. We'll repeal the Human Rights Act and stop our now somewhat corrupted judiciary from using this at every opportunity not to deport people. Unless we deport all of those that come illegally, they will continue to come. I can't give you legal immigration figures because they won't be out until June. It's quite likely that the numbers will be down, but still enormous. But remember, we're looking at the net. And what we will see in the figures are more and more and more people leaving the country. We're back in a 1970s brain drain. The sheer number of people I've spoke to who've said, I'm leaving, or if I could afford to, I would leave, is worrying and depressing. We've got to make this a place that people want to stay. And there's anger out there on the streets in these red wall areas over two-tier care, two-tier policing, two-tier justice, and two-tier recruitment. What happened after Southport was the most appalling cover-up. If we'd known the identity and something about the murderer, I don't believe those riots would have happened on anything like the scale that they did. But in a vacuum, of course, some crazy conspiracy theories were allowed to flourish. But what was clear is that people that rioted, or people that said intemperate things online in their upset and their anger, in some cases mothers of young children who wrote intemperate things online. They shouldn't have written them, but perhaps given the context of what had occurred, you can understand why emotions might have got a little bit out of control. They're all hoofed off to prison, whilst the men that committed those vile attacks at Manchester Airport, nothing happened to them. It wasn't until we, the Reform MPs, threatened to take a private prosecution that actually the government and the CPS kicked into gear. And we see this every single day. We see recruitment policies in police forces, recruitment policies in the NHS, designed to put ethnic minorities to the top of the list against white people with more history in this country. And we think not only is that a disgrace, not only does it mean you won't necessarily get the best people into the right positions to do jobs, but we also think it is a huge insult to the people of this country, who are the most reasonable, open-minded, decent people you will find in any Western nation. And we always have been, and we always will be. We do not believe in DEI and that madness in any way at all. But it's all part of the North London human rights lawyers being completely out of touch with ordinary folk, being completely out of touch with working people. And in our party, this reform people's army that we're building, and I'm seeing it every day as I go to, I was in Devon yesterday, I was in Gloucestershire yesterday, I was in Cornwall yesterday, I'll be in Lancashire tomorrow, Runcorn Thursday, and everywhere I go, I meet our candidates, I meet our activists, and it's really interesting. Some come from a centre-right background, some come from a centre-left background. It's not about left or right, it's about values. And it's about believing that our country is going down the tubes. It's about understanding that Britain is broken, and that without the right leadership, without the right change of mentality, then I think most of us feel within a decade, it frankly won't be a place worth living in. And we are damn determined to turn this round. We fully intend to turn this round, and we're actually the most optimistic political party out there, because we believe we can and we will turn this around. Get that pendulum to come back in a different direction. Get the attitudes of people towards work, towards success, towards life, towards their community. We believe all of that can be turned around, and that is our historic mission. And I'm hoping on May the 1st that we will surprise you all with the results we get in the mayoral, the local, and indeed in the Runcorn by-election. We are the party of working people, and broken Britain deserves nothing less. Thank you very much indeed. Now, I've been handed a list, a press list of people that want to ask questions, beginning with Tom Wilkinson from PA.
Hello, here at the back. Mr Farage, I understand that the National Education Union has had something to say quite strongly this morning about reform, and saying that it's a racist party. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear me now.
Yeah, I did hear you. I heard the question. For those that didn't hear, it was about the National Education Union, led by a self-declared Marxist, Daniel Kabidi, somebody who is absolutely determined that our children should be poisoned at school. Their minds should be poisoned about everything to do with this country, its history, what it stood for, and what it's fought for. And as far as reform's concerned, yeah, he is encouraging literally indoctrination of teenagers in our schools by telling kids that reform's a racist party, reform's a bad party, and kids that speak out against that face disciplinary action. And I get reports of this come in via email every single week. I'll make one thing very, very clear. If we win the 2029 general election, we will go to war with the National Education Union and all the left-wing teaching unions. People should be taught objectively, fairly, and should be taught critical thinking, where kids can make their own minds up what they believe and not be indoctrinated. I think the man is an absolute total disgrace, and as you might be able to tell, it makes me pretty angry. Thank you.